You guys, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, if you want, yeah. If it was only,
Tell her
okay.
what?
You guys good?
Right.
Cool, awesome. Thanks you guys for coming out. I want this to be something where it's like real for each of you. So it's something where we want to have you guys come across as being open to us pointing things out about you, as well as asking us questions to help you guys build up from where you guys are at now. So whatever foundation you guys have built up to this day, we want to take that to the next level. So that way when you guys go out there, you'll have that much more confidence. We have it as an open forum, and what that means is that I really need you guys to be honest, open, and just be able to ask those questions that you guys really want to know, because we're going to ask some questions about you. Because we've seen you guys, we've paddled with you guys, we've seen you guys steer, so we want to challenge you as well. So I'm not up here to impress anybody. It's like Matt's one of my best friends. He's been a mentor. He's like, I've learned so much from this guy. And
Total best friend.
yeah, and so
more than Danny.
I'm not. I know. I'm not here to look good. I'm not here to impress you. I'm a cancer survivor, so I don't give a crap about looking good. It means nothing to me. What means to me the most is be able to have you guys gain from the knowledge that we have, as well as the knowledge that you guys have together as a group, so that way you guys become that much better as a steersperson. And when you guys get in that canoe next, your crew is going to notice a big difference. So that's what we're hoping to take away from this, okay?
This is a time for us to just kind of share, open up, and kind of figure out how we want to kind of look at the new season. What?
You gotta get on.
Camera's like really close.
Oh, I didn't even see that. You have a camera?
Yeah, so if you're
past
past
the flag line.
You sit next to your best friend. Turn the camera.
At my age, you want to be side view of the camera. Totally. I think we want to start out by actually asking everybody a couple of questions.
Yeah, and this is how open I want you guys to be. So you know what? I'll just set the example. Matt, you know me
Yeah.
for a long time. What do you see as my weakest point in my steering? Yeah, put him on the spot, but put myself on the spot.
Weakest point.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say weakest. I would say that a point of steering is, I don't know. Let's see.
You made like 5-page notes.
Maybe I should open it up to everybody else, because I'm always kind of just looking over at you from the other boat. Anybody have a point about Dave steering? I would just rephrase that from weakest point to a point that when like somebody's in your boat, what does it feel like when Dave's steering you?
Yeah, be honest. This
Fun?
isn't
Okay,
something where
fun.
I want you guys to. You're not going to hurt my feelings
It's
at
fun.
all. This is where I want to know, and I want you guys to know what your peers, those people that are in the canoe with you or next to you, are seeing and hearing in that, so that way you guys can hear something or see something that you guys aren't. So this is a perspective point of view. This is different from us just putting it as a class format, telling you how to do things. This is real time. So
One of the
Yeah.
things we want to come away with here is that, because so we all steer boats. We all know how to go straight. We know kind of what to do. The thing is, we want to come away with something inside of everyone to kind of figure out where you are right now and what kinds of things you want to work on and where you ought to go. Because one of the things we find is that when you're newer, you have a lot of fears about things. The number one, fear for me was, God, I don't want a huli. Just please, because there's some stigma there about that. So I would do everything I can, even to the point of leaning left for 5 years. So there's no way we're gonna huli. I'm paddling like this, and I'm here, and there's no way. so everybody has the same fear, and there's it's not, so it's not always fear too. It's the low confidence in. It's just like, you know, what if this happens, you know, what if that? So we want to come away with how we handle that, and also come away with kind of info about certain hazards out there that all of us kind of understand and what to do. That's our main goal. So so let me ask everybody a question. What are some of the hazards out there that maybe you guys see and you actually know can be a rather severe hazard? Danny?
Water temp.
Water temperature. Okay, so what does that mean to you then?
It means like when I see my crew dressed not properly,
Yeah.
you gotta call them out and like make sure they borrow some clothes or do something, because if you hooey, then you know they can go hypothermic real quick.
Right. Okay. Very good. Guy.
So,
What are some of the
this is
hazards?
kind of a little bit, in answer to the first question that Dave was asking, and just in general. You know, well, specifically, I think of you as a coach, Dave, so when I think of you steering, I think of you more in coaching mode.
Yeah, stick with steering. Coaching, we can go totally, I want to stick with, that's going to benefit you guys, so let's focus on the
Okay.
steering part.
Alright.
As a steersman,
Okay,
on the water.
so your specific question, Matt, was about safety hazards out there.
No, hazards.
Okay,
Things you guys see out there that might cause you guys to either flip over or lose your way, or somebody fall out of the boat. Those
Okay.
kinds of things. What
Alright, so
kind of hazards
specifically,
you guys see?
I'm thinking of waves, like at the harbor mouth, any of the different surf breaks. And I would like to see the club set aside some time to address that.
So, okay, that's a really good point. Let's start with harbor mouth, okay? Everybody understands that there's a sandbar right by the mouth on the right side, right by the lighthouse there. And everybody knows at low tide, there are certain rocks right there on the, going out on, the right side. And everybody also knows here that those waves, you can't always see them, can like come in, kind of hit that, jack up some, and then break. If it's summertime, it's gonna break and then kind of mush out, right? Everybody knows that, or not. So what about those hazards there that everyone has experienced? Let's just share like some of those that you guys have experienced.
Matt Love. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'll point people out, because this is what we're here to do, we're here to learn. So you experienced something like that, what was,
We got
Yeah,
swamped.
Matt?
We had a
Okay.
good- We had a good line, we were on a wave, but we got swamped from behind.
Yeah.
what was something that you
Okay.
felt like you didn't have as a tool that could have helped you, avoid that?
That
Only had-
mustache.
I had
If you would've
five-
had that stash
Okay.
on, you would've,
That would be a different story.
yeah.
No, we just finished the long paddle. It was wreck paddle, there was only 5 in the canoe, and we paddled for 2 hours, so the crew was very tired, and there wasn't any move.
Okay, yeah,
And so, we thought we called it, I thought I called it when there wasn't a set coming through, and no one behind us saw a set either. It just snuck up on us, and we just didn't have any oomph to keep riding that first wave that we were on,
yeah,
to avoid getting swamped by that second one that just jumped us.
okay. So, one of the key things you said is crew. And so, like if it's a small wave, it's all tied to what? Crew, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's small, if it's 4 up there, then, and if it's, after a couple hours, a small wave is the same as a larger hazard, right? So that's something everybody has to really think about as well, is that our number one hazard zone is in and out right here, right? So anytime you actually come in, that is your like kind of beacon, not, number one zone. So you're saying, okay, it's a hazard zone, although you've been going for a couple hours, so you're also tired and just thinking, let's just get in and go. And that is where, when you steer, you have to maintain some kind of hazard focus. What's one doing to, who's, is there any boat speed, what's coming, and those kinds of things. So what could Matt have done coming into the harbor to really mitigate that, would you guys say?
I think it takes time, but if one is insecure what's happening there, I would take the time, even if it's 5 minutes, watch the pattern.
Okay.
Let 1 or 2 sets go through to see how much time gap in between, how many waves are coming through.
Okay. That's good. Nan-
Well, I agree with that, because like, it was Eddie and I was in front of Eddie, and, we were coming in, and we waited,
Yeah.
we saw the waves were pretty high, and so I was waiting, and then I kept that, to where I had the lows. And I was really surprised that there were only sets of 4,
Yeah.
before they got big again, because then Eddie got caught in a wave, but I would have thought you didn't, you wouldn't have gotten caught on a higher wave, because it wasn't that, he was right behind me,
Yeah.
so, and all of a sudden we heard people yelling and stuff at that boat, they were fine.
They were
They
cheering.
were fine, they were cheering, but they,
That worked out well.
but still, yeah, like
Right.
that kind of, was, but yeah, waiting to count the sets, how
Right.
many are getting.
Okay. All right, so you can kind of, stay outside a little bit, and you can just see what's actually coming in, right? And
Wait
it
together,
also
too.
gives your crew a chance to maybe just kind of rest it up a little bit, and everybody can kind of get on the same page, Guy.
So the first thing, of course, is checking the conditions, surf line or the buoys, or there's the harbor report. And then on the way out of the harbor, I'm always looking, okay, what's the surf doing at the harbor mouth?
Right.
When it's breaking all the way across the harbor mouth, it's like, ooh, okay, I need to pay attention coming in
Right.
for sure. So the going out part is a great way to get a sense of what the swell is doing at the harbor mouth.
Those are great, and what I want to try and do is keep the answers really short and simple, because there's a lot of things we want to go over, not
Yeah,
just
but
that
these-
incident.
These are great, okay.
So one thing you just kind of popped into my head, Guy, but, so sometimes I'll show up at practice and I'm not planning to paddle, or sorry, to steer.
Yeah, we know that. You just show
I just
up.
wanna watch. You're right, but, so, and then for whatever reason, I end up steering, and it's my bad that I haven't prepared to be steering that day. So I don't know what the tide's doing, I don't know what the conditions are doing. Maybe I glanced at it when I was driving down, so I need to assume that every day that I come to paddle that I'm gonna steer.
Mhm.
And also, I think it would be helpful for us as steers people, if we're at practice, there's 3 of us or 4 of us that are gonna steer, do a quick shout out to each other, like, okay, Ty's steering, Dan's steering, okay, here's what I noticed. Boom, boom, it takes 30 seconds, but we can kind of coordinate and share information so
Right.
that we're all on the same page.
So you can go on your phone, and there's a harbor cam,
Mhm.
entrance cam. So like, I'll drive up, when I'm waiting for people to show up, I'll just go on my phone, look at the cam, see how it's breaking at the
See
harbor.
what's going on.
You can also go on surf line at the same time, see
Okay.
everything. So you can do all that in like.
Yeah, no,
All of
absolutely.
these
I just-
things are really
I
good.
don't do it, and I need to do it.
Because all of us steer here, and so those who get in your boat have some kind of confidence that, okay, you kind of have some idea what's happening. But if you don't, right along with them, now it's a compounded hazard, right? So, and Guy made a very good point, because I do the same thing. Every time going out, I see our number one hazard So what's happening? Oh, I can go super tight, there isn't anything, I can go out. How can we get in, like if it's actually breaking hard right at the jacks there? What's something that all of you would do?
Surf in.
Hands are from the right.
On the right.
Yeah.
Towards the
Okay.
east jetty, right?
So instead of coming straight in, if you know you have a tired crew, you come around a little bit, just sit there, watch them come in. Okay, there's this little channel right there, we can go right on in, you know, like easily. And I know that there is a, like, human temptation to want to give everybody a thrill of being on a wave, you know, whatever that is, okay? But you have to avoid that. That's coming from you. Not everybody's feeling that. They want to get in safely. So you would go around and then come in, right? On that angle, straight in, hazards done. Like out of the way. We all know that it's easy to catch a wave, and we all know that whatever angle your boat starts at, it's going to compound going left or going right. Because if you're new and you've got a heavier crew, you're not going to turn that thing once it's going. So unless you have it lined up perfectly, then it's going to go one way, and if it's going to go left, it's going to go on the side and it's going to come over. If it's going to go right, it's going to go right into those rocks right there, okay? And so catching a wave at the harbor mouth is not advised at all, because there's a fine line of success, this is absolutely great, and catastrophe. Can we all agree? Okay, so that was really good. What are some other hazards?
I think one of the things about the harbor mouth is that it's very dynamic. It's always changing. So, I mean, even if you look at the conditions and they look similar to you, it could be very different. Case in point was that day. What had happened too that contributed to that, the dredge has actually dug a big hole right inside the harbor mouth. So it kind of broke, but then it got very shallow again. And that's where it was jacking up again.
Okay.
Where you least expect it,
Right.
almost right in front of you.
So in the springtime, wintertime, it is absolutely crazy out there.
Yes.
There's all kinds of sandbars. Okay? Let's just talk about another hazard in terms of there's one or two or three boats go out. Okay? What's a hazard that can happen when there's more than one or two or three boats?
Separation.
Separation, exactly. Now, how does that happen? Well, we want to beat you, we're faster, so we go, and somebody gets dropped. Okay? What are the rules of the road when it comes to, like, outrigger canoeing?
After you win the race, you wait for the guy to
No,
you gotta,
that's
well,
not-
first of all, going in
that's
and out
not
the harbor.
rules of the road.
Okay, how-
The rules of the road, which you guys don't know, go back, you know, probably 100 years from Hawaii, is that you never leave anybody. I mean, you can be in front, but you always wait. At some point, you always wait. Because if you can't see them, that's a hazard. And then number two, if you know that we have a severe hazard here, why would all the boats come in and leave one out there that's the last boat, so we all know that they're having a hard time because they're slow, tired, and so forth, right? That alone makes more risk than anything, because things can happen in there by themselves. When we do a Davenport run on one man's, let me just tell you, it's so hard not to just go and leave folks behind. But what do? You stop, you back and you wait to see them, and you wait for them to come up, and then you go. That's just the rules of the road, and I think all of us need to understand that you don't leave anybody. You can dust them and make them feel that you're speed, but when you see they're back there, then you just tell everybody to stop and let's wait. As soon as they get up, let's go again, so we can really rub it in,
Okay.
right? Is that something everybody does?
To some degree, in training, we like to stay together, but something that I always try to do is, if I don't hear people calling, the boat's calling from behind me, then I'm looking over my shoulder to see what's going on. And that happened one time where I didn't hear it, and a boat had hoolied out at Mile Buoy. And it was only because I looked over my shoulder that I knew that it even happened.
Yeah.
So it's just a regular thing. If I don't hear them calling behind me, then I look over my shoulder regularly to see what's, you know.
Another
That's a
good
good point.
communication practice is all the steers people should be wearing whistles. There's a whistle in the bag, that's not gonna do you any good. So if you get a separation and you can call somebody back, we have, Dwayne got a box of whistles hanging, just put one around your neck when you go out, so it's a great safety communication.
Since everybody steers here, all of our heads need to be on a swivel so we can see them, right? If you can't see them, then we're all gonna lava, and we're gonna wait. And if we can't see them, we're gonna go back. So that has to be mandatory for all of us. And that alone, like if somebody in the way back hoolies and they're already tired, we actually come right by them, everybody can get in our boat, it's all good, right? So we can make it work. A boat by itself is a huge risk. Who got stuck on a Davenport run? Was that you who got left and your boat
That's because
broke?
Robert's seat fell off.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
And Dave got stuck, and we all just went, phew, thinking, oh, it's Dave, he's fine. And his seat broke, and he had to go into some little beach if he could, and then of course he sat there because he wanted us to freak out and worry, and then he came in like at sunset or something like that. So even though like it's me last out there, you have to still wait because you don't know. Okay, any other hazardous areas out there inside that you guys are unsure about, or when you see, you always know, okay, I gotta be on high alert?
Blacks,
Blacks.
on
Okay.
point.
Blacks is a sucky spot. It can suck you into the rocks and it can spit you out. Waves jack up there, waves come off. We actually use it with the men to get used to feeling Molokai, where you got waves coming here and waves here and so forth. With any other crew that is not super experienced, you really should give that a wide berth. Why? Why like go in? They don't need the thrill, right? Because the whole thrill is, if you guys hoolie there, that's a really bad spot. Somebody can get sucked into those rocks, and a lot of things can happen. So so that's good. Anything else? Nar, you got one, right?
Hazard?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all fun out there.
What?
It's all fun out there.
Oh, there's wind and wind waves.
And sailboats.
Sailboats.
Sailboats,
Yeah,
okay. Right, you're a small boat, it's easy, you can stop. Don't try to race somebody past their mark, right? You just stop, let them go, and then go. One of the other things for me is coming into surf zones, like the point. There's sewers out there. That's the spot where you know how far out you have to go. Because if they're actually sitting right here on shortboards, meaning that the wave has to almost break, you have to be well beyond that, going around that, because that that is a, like, all of a sudden jack up spot, right? Are there other spots like that going up north?
Yeah, there's all kinds of spots, like Steamer Lane, you can easily get surprised by Middle Peak.
Oh, Middle Peak, huh?
I should see that.
Yeah, do you wanna share a story about that?
From
We made it,
You made it,
we made it,
okay.
yeah,
But if you had to do it all over again, would you,
well, I wasn't steering,
yeah,
so
okay,
I didn't have a choice,
yeah.
go, go, go.
That's interesting. So what did it feel like being in the boat, not having a choice and seeing what's coming?
You make a choice real quick, like, okay, we're gonna swim or we're just gonna go, so, you just go.
Okay,
I think one of the things though about Middle Peak that for me, one time going out there, knowing that it was potentially gonna break, but thinking I was okay, and then not taking into consideration the kelp. And so we're coming through, I see a swell coming, like, all right, you know, everybody hit it, let's go to get over it, and people are sticking their paddles in the
I know a lot of times when you're coming back from the north,
yeah,
the angle changes really,
Yeah.
really good, and you think you're far enough out, but you're
Right.
inside enough, and then all of a sudden you look,
yeah,
and right here, it's like, you
Yeah.
know, it's at your right, so, the angle is really tricky in there for some reason, I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody else
Yeah.
has experienced
That's
that.
another one that you can check when you're going out, to see, okay.
Mhm.
Well, see, the
how
thing-
far
Well,
it is right now.
yeah, I mean, you know, it's
But it's
just
a
when you're
different
coming
view,
back.
so
Yeah, when you're coming
it looks
back,
different.
it's really, when you're going out, you can see everything, and you're just like, no problem, you can ride up right next to it and go out, but when you're coming back, you're like doing this and then all of a sudden, it's like, you know, set's coming, it's there. I don't know,
So the
it's
thing with
really
that
easy.
is, the swell interval makes a big difference. So once you get to 16 seconds, 17, 18, 20, you can have a long interval, but it breaks way far out at those longer intervals. Whereas the shorter intervals, it won't break that far out. So when you're looking at the tide, you know, at the conditions in the beginning, when you see that long interval, and you know you're going by Middle Peak at Steamer Lane, be aware for them breaking way far out. They'll break a quarter of a mile further out than you think.
Can you talk about, interval and how that relates to strength of the wave?
Yes. So the shorter the interval, the less power the wave has. The longer the interval, the deeper the swell it is, and it hits the bottom in deeper water and bounces up higher. So that's the short version of it. There's a, you know, you can do a lot of research to find out about it, but just know that the longer interval hits the bottom and bounces up from deeper water. So it can be 20 feet deep and be bouncing up, whereas a shorter interval swell won't do anything in 20 feet of water.
I would say that we use a common sense metric there, like whenever you actually go out of the harbor, you take inventory of, like, you know, hazard to risk, and you say, okay, I'm staying A and B right there. I'm going here, and then we're gonna go out here, and then here, and then back. So what if it's a little boring? So it's in that zone, okay? So I think our overall emphasis is that like if you've gone through the steering class, you've learned some awesome information about steering, but it's the first foundation. After that, you have to grow on your own, but you have to grow with common sense. Common sense is to understand your own, like, skill set. And also you have to listen to that own voice and not let the other 5 in there say, oh, well, let's do something else. You know, you are actually steering that. And so we actually talked, and we ought to share this, is that what is some of our fears? My fear is being with five others that are very novice and don't know really what they're doing in a super windy day, and it's super hard for me. I'm just like, I wanna help them, I wanna move it because they're, you know, not novice-y somewhat. But yet, you know, the arm was coming up a little bit, I got all kinds of things going on. So we understand that a lot of you guys steer that kind of a boat. So your whole mindset needs to really go down into that really basic level, right? Like if I was steering that boat, I would just keep it simple, have fun, do whatever. Yeah, so we cannot gauge what we ought to do based on a boat with guys who have you know, raced for 10 years and they have a lot of experience, they know how to hold themselves, stay here. You know, you got a novice crew, you got people leaning left and right and all over the place and so forth. So one of the thoughts that we were saying, Dave, Ty and I, were that I think we need to take advantage of weighting our amas more based on like who's in there. On the last race that all of us had on Maui, all of us weighted our amas. And a lot of the local guys didn't do it. So what? We actually did. And we all were confident, it felt good. AMA came up a little bit, except boom, you know, it's right down. So it's fine to do. It isn't like, oh, I'm gonna weight this thing and now I'm gonna see. What do you guys think about that? Because you can add 5 pounds, 10 pounds, the smaller weights, you just wrap them around. I carry my own weights. I look at my boat and I see if it's super windy, because I don't want to be like this for an hour and a half. I want to be paddling. So I'll weight that thing, and then I'm in the whole time. It's super fun. But if it's light, I'm fighting that thing, and I'm like, you know what I mean?
So you're talking OC1 or OC6?
6.
All right.
We have them for OC1s too, there's 2 ankle weights there, so free to use those
And
anytime.
the OC2,
Yeah.
I did that with Chloe, but I think it's important that we all recognize that stigma of, oh, you can't weight the AMA because you can't steer the boat. And when we were paddling last year in the winters with Dave, some of the mornings he would weight the AMA. You know, at first it was like, oh no, is this really terrible conditions that we need to do this? But no, it's just a little bit of a security measure, a little bit safer. You're going to steer a little more comfortably because of it. And with kids, we weight them as needed, like in Monterey, you know. So actually, you should have.
You should.
So everybody can go down to a dive shop, buy these small little weights, and you just have them with you, go out there. What boat is it? You know, because we actually don't always rig everything for a super light boat, or because it's always the same. Nobody says, okay, we got a light boat, so we're going to bring it out a little bit. No, it's always the same thing. Everybody just goes, gets in the boat. So if you're steering and want to have more fun, just throw some weight on there, and it's going to be a great time, because that is everyone's #1 fear, right? Huli, right? It's a stigma. I huli. Oh my gosh. I don't know. It was Jean's fault, but she was in our boat. We actually hulied 2 times in like one practice, because we actually hulied because her head and everything was over on the right side. And then, so it just, and then we got it up, got it all out, and then she got in and went over too far as she was getting in, and the omelet came up and like over again. We all laughed, it was fun. We had boats by us, we were like, you know what I mean? Don't make it a stigma, right? It happens, Guy.
So, I want to stir up the pot a little bit and speak the unspoken. So, when we're racing training, I haven't done it for a few years, but I imagine it hasn't changed too much. We like to race up and down the brakes, right? Where you can accidentally on purpose catch waves and you'll go a little faster and you'll get to win going in. So there's some certain, like, when you get really good as a steers person, you can surf waves.
It's
even
a
though-
black belt,
What's that?
a black belt.
Yeah, when you're a black belt steersman, you get to surf waves, even though we don't surf in the club, right?
We do surf.
Okay, we
We
do surf.
absolutely do surf.
So what does surf mean? Let's figure out what that means. What does surf mean? We don't
It
surf.
means catching a wave and riding it in at a surf break.
Oh,
I'm not-
at a surf break.
I'm not talking about an open ocean wave, although that could
Okay.
be the same thing.
No.
That's a good way to practice for surfing, at a break. But what I just want to draw attention to is that we do that as a club. And new steers people coming in go, oh wow, that person knows how to surf, so I'm going to try and catch a wave. So what I want to suggest is that there's some teaching and training around that, and then there's also some specific teaching and training about what to do when you hoolie or you swamp. So like, can we practice hoolieing? Can we practice swamping? Is there a safe place where we can catch waves and ride them in, and it's not a big deal if we hoolie or swamp, and deal with it, have it set up like that, so that there isn't this mysterious zone between being a beginner trying to catch a wave and a black belt steers person awesomely riding waves through Pleasure Point.
Well, you can't go from white belt to black belt in like 1 month. However, I think that's a really good idea, is that there are days when a lot of swells come through Kyle's, right in the middle, that never really break, and they just roll all the way in, And we can get some boats out there, everybody can go on the right side, we can try to lift the ama until it comes over, it goes over, ha ha ha, we bail, go back around and do, would everybody wanna do that? Sure. So we can do that under the right conditions.
Well, we the women, last year, we did a lot of hoolie practices, we did a lot of wind stuff too, which was nice to have, because I steered the, what was it, the Monterey one?
Yeah,
That was
The
really windy,
volleyball.
and it was just like,
right on the ama too.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, and then you turn to go downwind, and man, that's where my scary point is, when I initially go up, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
holy shit, like there
Yeah.
was like, where are we going now? And then once I'm into it, I'm
Right.
okay, but it's just that initial, like I'm way up, and I can't even see my stroker
Right.
anymore,
Right.
But we did a lot of wind stuff last season, because it was windy, it was windy
Yeah.
all the time.
That's good.
Well, I just want to address that surfing question, and you're right, people that don't have the experience or they don't have an experienced crew should not be surfing. But it's encouraged with an experienced steers person and with an experienced racing crew, kind of defined as that. I think we've discussed using that term when we say you can surf a canoe. But I think it does a great disservice for all the steers people and everyone else if nobody surfs, because you're gonna surf, you're gonna get stuck in a surfing situation whether you want to be or not. So you really need to learn how to surf, but it has to be with experienced racing crews. That's just the end of it. And it can't be in a swim zone, it can't be in a hazard zone, but you are encouraged to catch a wave and surf. There's not a stigma that says you have to stay out of the surf zone, but if you don't have experienced people and you don't have strong racers in the boat, you should not be surfing,
Right.
no matter your experience.
Right, so my point is just how do we get beginner steers people to want to aspire to that, to get practice with that?
Then they need to go with a black belt and surf waves. I mean,
Okay.
all the time, that's where a lot of us got our experience, paddling with Dave and his boat at the beginning, because we were surfing, we were paddling in those tough conditions. What I was afraid of was surfing into the harbor in the dark when the buoys weren't lit. That was my fear. And we went out one time, and Dave was steering, so I didn't pay attention to where the buoys were. Then he had me steering in. Scariest moment of my life. The steering was fine, right? Made it. Like, okay, I survived. Whew. Went in. Dave's like, all right, turn around. We're doing it again. I don't want to do it again. I just, that was terrible. So we paddled out, 10 changes, turned around, and shot it again. But it's that type of experience, that you're gonna need, and you can't do that on your own. I mean, you can. The new steers person can't just get there.
You guys do know you guys surf every time you go out on a windy day, right? The only difference is that you're not actually surfing a really long wave. But that's where you build your confidence, is on wind waves. So like when I'm in the harbor, when I see those breakers coming alongside the jetty. You guys all know the difference between the jetty and the breakwater, right? So when those waves are coming along the jetty, that's the fun zone. So everyone knows I take that line every time. So to build your confidence up doesn't mean you have to be 2 inches from the jetty like I do, but you can be farther away from it. And work on that energy and how that actually translates to boat speed and translates to control of the boat or lack of. And your go-to point is always make sure your steering blade's on the left-hand side, because if you need to, you can pry really hard left. Guess what? You're gonna go right into the middle where it's most flat. You know, so you do actually surf, you just guys don't realize it. You know, if you get confident out there in the wind waves, where do you think that's gonna translate? It's gonna translate to ocean waves when you're actually surfing an actual true surfboard.
So you guys understand that you have 42 feet of length, and you have a little blade like this. So if you don't have the right steering blade as well, then really, and a really good C5, you really shouldn't go into waves above 2 or 3 feet, because you can't really steer the boat. So if it's going a little left, you know, it's gonna go left. You can't come over and like steer that thing because it's a little toothpick. So you really can't do that. So like if we actually go surf, I like shove my surfing blade back there, which is this wide, and I can like turn that boat. I can go around a guy, I can do anything. I can go left, right. But without that, you can't really do it. So that's why to really surf, like in a small wave, is absolutely ideal, because you learn that it's all about your angle and kind of angle of the wave. So, and also if you're way off of, you know, the break zone, like, you know, right there, and you can work on that. You know, you can work on that kind of nice smooth run out, and then you go off, and then you come around nice smooth. So it can be done. Everybody can learn that. I just want you guys to know that if a wave comes, and if you're on the wave and you're like, oh crap, it's gonna break, right? You want to let everybody know in a really calm voice to really go hard, because you can outrun that, because you already got speed, so you outrun it, it's going to break, and then it's just going to push you. So if everybody feels that and kind of just slows down, and then it's going to break on seat 6, and it's going to kind of come into you. I mean, if it's a huge wave, then you're toast. Yeah, I shouldn't be on it. Okay, so any other things regarding like hazard surfing or any of those things? Fog. Okay, well fog is so much easier than like waves, current, wind, and that kind of thing, because fog is crap. I'm not going to go out there because we can't see a damn thing. So, but like it can be clear, and then all of a sudden fog comes in, but you can see it coming in. So when you see anything that looks like fog, what do you do?
You go fast in.
Turn that boat around and say, go! Let's go. What happens if you get stuck out there in fog?
It's
The
interesting.
horns.
Two things you should know. One is the wave directions where they're coming from.
Okay,
Gives you a sense of
excellent.
direction.
Good.
Wave
Second one
direction.
is know where you're, so there are horns out there.
Where's the 2 horns?
You can hear them. There's one at my buoy, there's one at the harbor mouth,
Perfect.
there's one at the wharf. Knowing.
Each has a
if
different
you
sound.
hear something, you know exactly where you are.
Understand the sounds. 5 seconds here, so you know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah. That's the harbor, let's go. Although, let me just tell you, in fog, when you hear that, you still go in a circle. Because you don't know if you're going for it. We've done the Monterey crossing, and they said start, and everybody went, and we're going, hey, there goes those guys. It was like 5 boats going like this.
But here's the thing, if you know your
So
direction,
bad.
you'll hit it every time. And so 6 of us were in a canoe, And we actually, it was the first time we actually did it in 6-man, and it was socked in fog. And we're looking at each other, and of course we did the macho thing, because one guy was like, well, sure, I'll go. No one wanted to be the one person that said, no, I don't want to go, so I was, I'll go. Matt has the compass, put his heading, boom, we nailed the buoy perfectly. And that was because he knew his direction. And that's the thing, that as steers people, you can't just go out there and just go through the motions and not be focusing on those conditions and, you know, those indicators. So if you're going outside the harbor, I'll go out in fog, I don't have a problem, because I'm actually taking a mental note of, if I go out, what's the swell direction? If I'm going right into it, feel it, okay, how long did I go out from that? If it was 5 minutes, I know that coming into it, it's gonna be about 3.5, and I should hit that harbor, or get really close to it. So those are things that steers people that you know that you make mental notes of. So you can
Well,
say,
but let me just say, Dave will do that, I won't do that. I won't go out. Because I already did that once, and I steered, and I know my fright all the way across, that we actually could have been going to Hawaii. And so we got lucky, and I won't do it again, so I won't go. So everybody has to have their own compass.
Well, I think the biggest fear is going out when it's clear and the fog comes in. And then,
Yeah.
So, even if that's not happening, being on the water, I always try to look around to see my markers. You're going out, you're focusing on the crew, you're paddling, you're going, all of a sudden you look, I was like, oh, there's natural bridges over there. So you want to be doing that all the time.
Right.
So you constantly know where those landmarks are, you know how far out you are. Because when, like, we got rescued, we thought we were in a completely different place than we were.
Yeah, I mean, if you get on the radio and you're calling, first thing you gotta tell them is,
Where are you?
where are you?
Yeah, you don't know.
Relatively.
So you can have a compass on your watch. If you don't, then
It's in the dry bag.
so we got lost. We were on a race, and we got lost by Pleasure Point, and there is no sound there. So we're like kind of listening for waves, and so we're like going in a little bit, listening. It feels right. What happened is that we got right in the surf zone, didn't even know it. And then, like, you can't really see, and all of a sudden this wave's coming, and you realize that you're right in the surf zone. So be aware of that, especially on the north coast, because you want to find land so you can follow land. However, you can follow land, but there's surf zones there. So it's a sketchy thing, and it is a huge, huge issue for all of us. And our crews don't really know that. Some of them are like so naive, they just get in the boat and just do whatever you say. So you need to understand that and say, you know what, I think something's coming in, I'm gonna turn around. And we're just gonna go in for a while. It's a good thing to do, especially if there's 2 boats, make sure both of you come back, right?
so, maybe now that you guys are really talking about safety, maybe that my vision for this was, really kind of, because we're coming into the race season, to really focus a lot on, getting you guys up to speed to where I can have you in the boat. But, maybe this is good that we work on the actual safety features of it and get that confidence, because maybe that's where your confidence is lacking, or you want to build on that. So the main thing I want to do is I want to give you guys tools. So Matt, you said something that was good. You thought you waited for the period of the swell to be at that point.
So I was on the right-hand side, I was fine.
Yeah, that's fine. But let me give you another tool. So I don't know how much you guys realize this, but I don't know if you guys can all see, but let's just say this is a wave. Front of the wave, back of the wave. And this is front of the wave behind it. So you probably waited for that opportune time. This is a wave. Front of the wave, back of the wave, front of the next wave that's behind it. So you probably waited for that period, or whatever you want to see it as, to come into the harbor. The one thing I want you guys to know is that the safest way to come into a wave is something you guys actually do when you're out there in the wind. You guys chase bump, right? You guys chase, okay, there's one, I'm going to go for the other one, go for the other one. You do the same exact thing. After you think that it's the best time to go in, you find that wave, and you're going to chase that wave right behind it, because just as there's energy behind the wave, in front of the wave, there's energy behind it as well. And if you can get your nose just right in that little energy, it's actually gonna trail with that wave. You're gonna follow that wave. And guess what? It puts a greater distance between you and the wave behind it. So when you wave follow into the harbor in those situations, you're gonna find that you're gonna have a much more distance between that next wave coming in. And of course, when there's wind waves, that period is shorter and shorter. So the other tool that you can do is, did you have everyone on alternate sides? Did you have them on the left side? How did you have your crew set up?
They were alternate, we
Okay.
call it power, you know.
So that's good. Another thing
Oh,
you
like,
can do.
Well, we said, you know, give me some extra for coming in.
So here's the thing. Most of the time when we go power push up and you got the crew that's not experienced or tired in that, put them all on the left hand side. Their confidence will build up, they're gonna follow each other, and they're gonna have a focus, okay? They're not gonna be thinking so much because you got that blade right in front of them. The other thing is that will actually help you to get that power, and as well as take that canoe, and here's the jetty. You can have that canoe pointing straight down the line of the harbor or to the left, okay? But the one thing you always want to do is you want to make sure that you have your blade wherever that alma is positioned. So if it's heading to the left, you want to make sure you have that blade on your right. And if it's slightly to the right, you want to make sure you have it on the left. Because if the wave does hit you from behind, whatever position your canoe is in, okay, if it's slightly to the right, guess what's going to happen? The force is going to be here. Same with the left. So you got to really think about, even if you're coming in, okay, I came wide, so now I'm headed left. I'm going to make sure I have that and be ready for the impact in that. So it's just, those are this one is something I use all the time. So 2 weekends ago when it was howling wind out there, I waited. It took me 20 minutes to wait to get outside. I made it all the way to the Malibu. It took me over an hour to get to the Malibu, but coming back was surfing. And the one main concern I had was getting in, okay? But the one thing I did is, you know what? I will follow a wave. And that's exactly what I did, which ensured it was an easy in, even though there's waves back. So that's what I want to get you guys. I want to hear you guys is like, it's great, now we're focusing on safety. I want to hear what that issue is so that way we can give you a tool so that way you can use it, and that's a really good tool for you.
We were in the boat right behind him when we came in, and I was sitting in seat 2, and it looked like it was fine. It was very flat coming in, and they waited, and it was like really cool coming in, and then out of nowhere, like a sandbar, and it was where the dredge is, so it wasn't right at the mouth, it was further in. And it lifted up the boat, and they went in, and you heard them go, woo-hoo, and everybody was having fun. And then there was a bigger wave after that filled up.
So how did they end up on the other side of the jetty then if they were inside?
Well, so we were going left, we got swamped, we had seat one, Myra was holding on to the front AMA and was not gonna let go. Yeah. Kramer was in my lap, and we had.
David Kramer?
Yeah. It was just fine, but before the canoe was swamped, and we were getting over with the swell was pushing us closer and closer to the jetty, so we were trying to.
Okay, so you were still outside of that
We were-
then? So you
We
weren't
were
like,
we were inside.
Inside.
of
There's
the-
a picture right Inside.
there. Yeah. We were
yeah,
right out there.
yeah,
Right
yeah,
here.
that's
But-
that's where it's actually breaking right now.
Yeah, but we were.
Because I got
we were
caught in
getting-
there.
We were getting pushed,
In that
and
one
and Myra was kind of acting like a big sea anchor
Yeah.
out there. And so we kind of, what we should have done is we should have just kept back paddling and get out.
Back paddle.
There was actually,
Oh, you mean you guys got flipped around?
no. So we were, yeah, we got turned, we're coming in like this. We got the swamp, and we ended up
Okay. Like
pointing
that.
it kind of this way, and then actually got pushed all the way around
Oh, yeah,
here. And then what we should have done is just back paddle.
yeah.
But we ended up just kind of trying to get away from it because we were just getting closer and closer. We pushed out.
Oh.
So in a situation like that, Matt, if you got a paddler in the water, the best thing to do is get them as close to the canoe as possible on the gunnel. If not, even better is grabbing the front of the actual canoe and you all back paddle.
Yeah.
So
That's,
that would be,
we were trying to, she wasn't gonna let go of that arm.
okay, that's fine. You just get everyone to back paddle, get away from it,
And
and
then we
then,
got out, Everybody's
And then the other
bailing.
thing you can do is you can direct her, look, here's a life jacket, you need to swim to the middle of the channel and we'll get you.
Yeah.
So that way you can get the canoe out, get everyone into a safe position where you can regroup. Something?
The other thing is, we try to get everybody, because we practice hoolies all the time, but we don't do swamping, people when they're in a swamp canoe don't wanna go in the water. I had to tell
You
the
direct
people that
them.
were in the water, like 4 times, get out of the canoe, we've gotta hoolie this to get the water out, and they wouldn't go.
Okay. So as steers people, you guys are responsible for those paddlers. You're responsible for taking, responsibility for their safety, but also directing them what to do and what not to do. If you need to be very stern about it, then you do it. If you need to have someone look, they're not away from the canoe, you're gonna swim to this area, we'll pick you up there, and you make that decision. But that's the confidence, those are those decisions you have to make as a steers person. And they're tough. Every time I go out into the water, into the canoe, immediately the first thing I remember when I touch that canoe is that I'm responsible for everyone. And that I will always be the last person in any type of trouble. So that's that, and that if you can convey that confidence to your paddlers, they're going to be confident in you. So situations like that, I don't want to beat a dead bush and continue to move on. I'd like to get some more other things about.
So in that regard, I want to ask everybody, how many times have you gone out and you're out there and all of a sudden, realize that you have nothing to bail the boat? Because I have. I've gone out and afterwards I think, what the hell? What do you, yeah,
One time.
okay.
We hoolied once and we lost, I think, a bucket and a baler, so we only had one baler.
Yeah, so that's something that all of us need to really think about is, how do we secure those? Because if it goes over, if it's just, plastic and if it's windy, it's gone, right? So we need to think about that. We need to think about how I got a bucket, because we need to really scoop that out of there and get everyone in and then, bail. Another thing about going over is that I know that there's like set jobs for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it never happens that way. Whenever you go over, you as a steers person have to kind of analyze who's with you and like who's not. And those that look strong, you're going to have them go over. It might be you and you go over, boom, get that boat over fast, and then everyone else can hang on, and then you're going to say, okay, you're strong, you guys get in, bail, and so forth. So, but if that stuff's not tied down, we're screwed. And if that stuff's not in the boat, we actually hoolied, and we had one little baler. We had to have another boat come over and throw us stuff. Of course, it was a sunny, warm day. We were like having fun, but that's and I was steering that boat, and it was stupid. So that's something that all of us need to kind of recommit to.
And you also want to not tie those bailers with, knots. They need to be slip knots, quick release, those wider bendy things we have, so you come off real quick.
Those are the best.
Those
Yeah.
bendy things are, yeah.
Yeah, because you can just like rip it out of there too. Those are good.
You got a movie for us, Dave?
I don't know. It depends. If you guys want to stay on, safety, I
Well,
want it to be
well, we
based
have
on what
10
you
minutes.
guys.
Is there something you guys
Like
want to cover?
25.
25?
Yeah, something.
No, I have 10. Is there any concerns specifically you guys want to cover? It might be time for a raffle of a hat. Give you guys time to, okay, so we have a lot of numbers in here.
There's a lot of new steers people here, so you've got questions. It does not correlate that you're not a good steers person by asking the question. It just means that you're reaching out for answers.
Okay, Teresa, you
Todd.
pick.
There's a lot of questions come up on what C1 should do, maybe C1 and 2, surfing a wave. Copy, should they boonie, should they just follow your commands? I mean, some people say they have to do this or they have to that. Is there a certain mindset you should give C1 in a situation like
It
this?
all depends on the steers person. If you feel confident that, you need somebody to sit there and direct the canoe, a lot of times I'll sit there and I'll say, seat 1, you know, kahi on the left, hold that blade out, you know, seat 1 and 2, just bring you up, and then I'll say out, so they get out. But, you know, it also depends on if you're able to do that, focus on that, and still ride the wave. And so, yes, there is, but there's not a set designation. It's really just the preference of the steers person. How you utilize your paddlers, that's not a thing that we go out there and go, okay, like a hula drill, we're not like seat 1, seat 2 has all these designations. It's something that's going to be dynamic, ever-changing, the conditions, the wave, how the wave's breaking, how fast the canoe's moving left or right. That's where you as a steers person need to know how to, on the fly, direct paddlers. Time and time again, it is just mind-boggling that people just don't really grasp how serious it is when you're out in windy conditions to be able to get that canoe. I've seen canoes take these just forever long, just trying to get the canoe to turn. What is the fastest way to get the canoe to turn right? Anybody? Someone should. See, that's where I have, this is where you guys, I want you guys to have this where you're like, yes, I know. Fastest way to get a canoe to turn right. 5, 6, you're kaying on the left. 1, 2, prying on the left. 1, 2, forces this way. 5, 6, just draw this way. The canoe's going to go like this very fast. Okay? That should be ingrained in you. So every time you need to turn quick, especially in the wind, especially when you do a downwind piece or any piece, you should know how to move that canoe and direct your paddlers. Okay? Those are the things that, you know, you have to know as a steers person, and if you don't know, you should ask. So these are the things that I want you guys to be able to ask us and go, hey, I don't really know how to get this canoe to do this in this situation. What do you do?
So if say I'm sitting in
And
seat
he wants to
1,
really wants to raffle.
No, we have, but I don't think we have that
There's a
number.
lot of seat ones.
Has
that
anybody
just
got
don't want it on you right.
2?
What's the number?
22?
They just,
Yeah.
Nobody? 22?
got ripped
off. No, no,
Okay, Forrest, pick another one.
number 1.
Woo!
Ah!
You always
Okay, Dwayne, what's your question?
so say I'm sitting in seat 1
Yeah.
and we're on a wave or whatever, should I wait for 6 to say uni, or should I kind of like do what I think I should do?
So here's the thing. As in your crew, you're directed by the steers person. Okay? The only time that you should ever make a decision on your own is if there's an immediate threat, such as we're headed right towards the jetty. I gotta do something because I know that if we continue our path, we're gonna be right in that jetty or a sailboat. But if you're on a wave or if you're doing something else, you continue to do what it is that your job is, and your job is to keep that momentum because you do not know what that steer person is thinking or has plans. And when you actually make a decision, you could be making a decision against what they're deciding to do. So only in those critical moments that you actually need to. and
To
of
save
course,
your life.
Yeah, so.
Dave, I'm a brand new in the steering class now, and.
Congratulations, it's awesome, thank you.
Could you just repeat, you said it really fast and I couldn't envision it, how to turn right?
Yeah. Yeah, see, 1 and 2, okay? They're gonna be prying on the left-hand side, okay? That's stable because they're on the left-hand side, right? The arm is on the left, they're on the left, no one's leaning right. Which direction would that cause the canoe to go?
Right.
Right. If I'm in 5 and 6, and I'm almost on the left, and I come over and I take and I'm pulling myself, drawing as a kahi, drawing that water, which is that going to force the canoe to go?
With 1 and 2 prime?
Forget 1 and 2, now just 5 and 6 by themselves. Which way is that going to move the canoe?
That should turn it right.
Correct. Now you've got 1 and 2 forcing it right, 5 and 6 forcing it right. You've got 4 paddlers forcing the canoe to go right. Guarantee you it's going right.
Okay.
Same thing with the left. Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to kahi. I mean, on the right. I'm going to pry on the right for 1 and 2. And then what am I going to do on 4, 5, and 6? Pry left. 1 and 2 prying left. I'm on the right hand side. 5 and 6 prying left side. And it's going left.
Now, when you say pry, though, I'm thinking, you push out. Are you saying, do you mean uni?
No, well, you're just taking it,
Okay,
blade here, forcing it out,
okay.
taking it in, forcing it. So it's a
Yeah,
product.
don't have our hand that low though. So we're right here so we can leverage that blade.
Oh,
What other questions?
let me see.
There's more than one way to really do that. It's based on like who's in your boat. And if one and two aren't really capable, then why would you turn right? Turn left and go around and then come around because it's safer, so.
Yeah.
But if you have to turn right, then that's
Yeah.
excellent, right?
Yeah. Let me ask, check.
So if there's swell coming though, you always wanna turn on the side and then
Yes.
come around and go down. Even if everyone's going around, so, and so you have to gauge who's in your boat. And a lot of times, if you're steering, it's gonna be a kind of not novice boat or something like that, so you're gonna have to just kind of work your way around, make the turn, and then, okay, we're all good, let's go. Take your time.
I got a question. Yoko, somebody zigzags in the harbor. Why is that?
There's a lot of reasons.
Give me the most simplest reason.
The German U-boats.
The canoe is not set up.
Just got that.
Okay, so thank you. The reason why you zigzag as a steers person, you can have a unbalanced boat. You could have the Yama tweaked out, but it zigzags because your reaction time is not correct. It's too slow. So the one thing I always want you guys to do is like when you guys have a line set, a lot of people what they do is they tend to overcorrect. So when they come off their line, they make their correction, hold that correction, and then the movement towards that correction is still there. Then they're out from the correction, but it has that movement off. So I want you guys to think of it as a rest. You're stopping the movement that you don't want, but not correcting it. So if my canoe is here, and this is my line, it's coming off line, my only thought pattern is to stop that, okay? Stop it, little poke, done. Okay, now I'm here and I still want to be there. Do I need to rush there? We do long distance. Most of the time we don't have to be there that fast. So what am I going to do? What's one thing that you can contribute to the movement of the canoe that will also help you get to where you need to go on that line? What's that? Paddle on the left-hand side. Not paddle steer, just paddle. That extra paddling is going to have that effect of bringing it. And what's going to happen when you start to feel that canoe moving back online? What do you do?
Well, I'm still in the poking stage.
Let's go with Robert.
Yeah,
Right to conquer it.
Paddle on the right. And then once when you feel that and you stop at that point, you know, those are the subtle movements. And that's when you have somebody that's zigzagging is because, one, they're overcorrecting way too much. And what does that do? It takes away from the momentum of the canoe.
Or they're trying to paddle too much. And they don't have the strength, so they're trying to help out, and it actually slows everything down. So I always say, steer first, lightly, you know, 1, 2, a little poke, lightly, and then don't be afraid to sit there and feel it. And so you can kind of just feel it going, and then, oh, okay, I was overthinking. So it's just kind of there, and then it's light. So, you know, you have to kind of go, you have to go neutral for a while and feel it. I can go, Dan knows, I've gone neutral for 10 minutes, just sitting back there, drinking, and you can feel the boat all says, whoa, yeah, they don't even need me, I'm oversteering. So, you know what I mean? You can really figure it out.
In your movement in the back, you'd be surprised. Like one thing I'll point out for Yoko, you always try and overpower back there. Your timing comes off, but because you're so powerful, you're just trying to drive, and versus just getting that blend. You'd be amazed. I've learned from you in that seeing how you do it, because I'm the same way, overpowering. Listening to this guy tell me to power down and blend, I noticed a huge difference. And one thing, there was a video that it just clicked. And it's something where it's like, this video has stayed with me for so long because it's so magical how the steers person is back there, you feel not only his movement is contributing to the canoe, you can see that he's blending with that crew. This crew is one of the top crew that actually placed first in this race, but when you just see his movement, and he's not the biggest guy, he's not the strongest guy, but he's all about contributing to the movement of the canoe. Look at how he's poking. He doesn't have his blade right at his waist. Okay, it's up forward where it has limited resistance on the actual movement of the canoe.
Well, that's Justin Banfield.
Yeah,
That's old school.
that's way old school. So this is something that stuck with me a long time.
That's Dave in seat 5. You can tell. Jensen.
Does he have his hand up on top of the blade when he's steering? No, he has it here, which just means he's not putting a lot of force on it. So all those little things, all those little tweaks are causing so much more movement forward versus being this drag behind. There's no top hand. Matt's taught that hundreds of times. You know, you can have both hands, but you have it down here, holding the blade. As soon as you bring it here, there's a tendency for the blade to shift back. And I had to translate that to movement in the canoe, and it's just...
Look at all the life vests in the back.
I know.
See, nobody thinks about that. Like if those were under every seat, then it'd be a little easier to grab, like if you went over. Okay, time for another hat. We only have 3 hats. Come on, get your number. I know.
Wait, I can't see. 13.
13. 13?
Yeah, is that?
Woo!
Woo! Happy
Wait a
birthday.
minute, you picked 13 and you are 13?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I thought you were 13.
no, I'm not 13. Who's 13?
No.
Someone's 13 here.
He's running this raffle.
Nobody wants a hat. All right. Well, pick another number, boys. You're
I'm the only one who knows how to do this.
Let's get a picker.
Number 2.
Number
Yes!
See, we got winners left and right here. Oh man, come on, girls, you gotta represent.
Teresa, any questions? I know. You've got to have one. You're sitting there really quiet. I know you have to have one question. You got Matt, who has so much experience. You have me, who's learned a lot from him, and all the amazing voyages that he's taken me on, and all the amazing people that he's introduced me to. So there's a huge wealth up there. So use us. What question do you have?
Okay, what do you do if you've got a pretty decent line and somebody's in the canoe next to you trying to shove you off it because they are on kind of a crappy line
Great.
and they're saying, get out of my way, get out of my way.
Great. What do you think?
I hold the
What
line
side-
and tell them
what-
to suck it. But
What side of the boat are they on?
It depends on who's pushing you around.
Either time, if I like my line,
Well,
I just want
it
to
makes a
move.
difference. Yeah.
What if they're on the right, you try to just flip the armor?
Well,
Maybe in the summer.
Yeah, I guess that that happened a few times during practice last year where a particular steersperson would say, stay away from my boat, don't play bumper boat, stay away from my boat. And I'm like my line, you move.
You know,
I
anybody,
don't-
so
I don't
here's the
know.
thing, here's a good thing to think about. Anybody that complains about somebody else's line has issues themselves. You will never hear me say to somebody, you're cutting in my line, move out of my way. It's racing, it's competition, whether we're out on the race site or actually on our practice site. So if you have a line, you hold your line. Because what happens is if they come onto your line, there's a steering that they're gonna have to counter. So when they counter, they lose speed. If you hold your line, you maintain speed. So as soon as you react to their movement, you just lose your boat speed. And it's one of the most frustrating things as a paddler when the steersperson moves off their line to adjust for that. If you bump boats, you bump boats. You know?
well, I just want to give you from experience how to avoid something bad. Is that like if they're side by side, then you can get everybody on. You know, you can call everyone left, and you can move away from them right? Because their arm is here. But if they get in back of you or in front, and if they turn and either get your back or your front, they're gonna turn you, right?
Okay.
Right? So if it's side by side, you're you know, fine, you know, fine, you guys. So we're gonna race you side by side, right? And so you can stay there for a while, but then all of your teams on the left, they're on the left and the right, so it's their advantage, and I have been known to grab the and then they're all like, oh crap, you know, move away, right? You know, fair is fair, right? So, so you can move away slowly, so it's not like, you know, turn, lose speed, and so you want to stay straight and you want to move away. The main thing is you have to avoid them being like in back of you, coming on and saying, hey, you're in our line, and then they steer into you, and then you turn, and then they've just screwed you because you turn and they'll either go by you or run over you. So if they're back here, you have got to stay away from them. So if they turn, you know what I mean? Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do
So-
when you actually have that where they hit you in the tail? What's your first response should be as a steers person?
Correct it. I mean, I would
You jam
dig-
on that
I would
left-hand
dig-
side.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be that moment of time.
I'd dig in deep.
There's going to be a moment of time that you have that you can hold that there, and their force is not strong enough to kick you. But as soon as you reach past about 30 degrees, doesn't matter how long you hold it. At that point, your objective is just to shoot out as fast as you can, because it will turn you. But between 0 to 30, as soon as they touch, if you're back here holding, you will actually prevent them, and they'll be the ones that are slowing because you're holding your line, but they're coming off, and you're causing them to slow down. So they'll eventually fall back. But until you actually have that reaction, you'll be subjected to them pushing you around.
Well, that is true, but the main thing is, like here, show them your Okoli. Don't show them your side, show them here, because then, you know, if he hits you. So as you can see somebody here, you gotta turn here. And then you're fine because they can't really get you. If you allow them to go here and they kind of run into you some and then dead.
Yeah,
Both
so
of you guys
better to
are
avoid
obviously
it,
going
yes. But when you can't, that's something you can do.
Yeah.
Can I just say, like during practice, if you guys bump boats together, I just lost a weekend of sanding, so how important is it really during practice to like push it to your
You know, when
It's never our fault. It's the other driver, damn it. They can't hold their line.
So when we say bump boats, we're saying taps. We're not saying ram into. So damages that you're talking about would be something where somebody's coming in and hitting at a much higher force. The bumper boats is when you're aligned and you're just basically on side by side bumping like that. So there's a difference.
We were racing novice at Alcatraz, and we had some juniors next to us, and they were, remember? And they were like moving us into the island. How, I mean, and we were told to stay away from them, and so, but they kept trying to shove us. How do you?
Maybe
how
we
do
don't
you
know
do
that. We can say that they may just be inexperienced and that's how their canoe was. But in relevance, it's what you do at that point where you're in that situation. You have to, you as a steers person, you have to gauge, do I have enough power to get my crew to move past them? If not, then I need to move behind them and take a new line.
Okay.
You have to just gauge that, and you will not know that until you know what crew you're in.
You can
Okay.
always try to communicate.
Right,
Give us
communicate,
space.
hey, give us some space, you're pushing us into the island, you know?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so
They
just
just
back
smiled,
off
they just
and then-
smiled,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it falls into racing. You can't sit there and complain and just go, yeah, they kept pushing us because you
No,
know
no,
what?
no, yeah, I was
it's
just
it's
concerned.
racing.
And
You
so
know.
we were trying to keep our distance.
Did you end up beating them?
Yes.
Yeah,
There we go.
That's
What
all
else?
that matters. Scoreboard.
Want to jam anything else you guys got before 7:30? So we got 4 minutes.
Last hat raffle. I got a box and I'm trying to give them away. Come on, you guys.
23.
Okay, let's try that again. I don't think we have 23 in here.
15.
15.
Yoko!
Yoko gets the last hat of the night.
So I got one question. We're racing Angel Island. How do you know where to line up?
Wherever they,
Well, you've studied and you've checked the tide and the currents, right? That would have an
Follow
effect.
Stephanie.
I'm going in on the right hand side.
So everyone's going to have their own different perspective on where to line up. If you think about it, what crews actually train in that water the most? Who do you think is going to have the most knowledge on that water? You can sit there in the morning, you can check tides, check all that, but if you're like, I'm going to pick this line, and then you have SFO sitting on this line, where do you think you should be? SFO. Okay. Does that mean that you'll have the fastest line? You don't know. But you usually go with the people that have the most knowledge. You know, just as much as you would pick somebody if you had a choice. If it was, say, Matt was up here or somebody that's a newbie, and both of you say we're going out for a paddle, most of you are going to probably say I'm going to want to go paddle with Matt, right? Versus a newbie. So when you go out into those situations, you kind of have to factor all that. And as a steers person, you take on that responsibility. Now, I've made mistakes as a steers person before, and one I'll never do again was Alcatraz race when I was with my open guys, and I had San Francisco, and I had, I forget the other crew, but Okalani, they took the inside line, San Francisco took the outside line, and I decided to take and break it between the two. The problem is that I took my crew out of the battle. And so with doing that, you just don't have a reference point of how fast you're going competitively compared to them. You've got somebody really going too far inside, someone outside. And that was a mistake that I made. And so we were right next to SFO, but by the time we hit that buoy, we were at least 5 to 6 canoes behind them. So that's one mistake, and that's the thing as steers people, you will make mistakes. Some of them are detrimental, some of them are minor. The main thing is that they're a mistake, and it's something that happens, but what is good about it is something good can come out of it. So for me, that's a learning point, and that's as long as you learn from those mistakes, then that makes you a better steers people. And I hope tonight is something where you guys got a little bit more confidence that you can go out there and be a better steers person yourself. So thank you guys for coming out. Thank you, Matt, for coming out of retirement. I think this is good, you know what? And I'd really like to do this again, so we'll put something out there and, you know, and have it, where you guys have this option. So